God and irrationality, it really come from the same source probably. So I didn't plan to write about these things, but it just come out from my deeper level. But I think, what I want to say, I think this ghost stories is part of the irrationality. Because someone was written, my first novel was written close to the political reformation of Indonesia. And during that time, we saw a lot of frequent incidents of violence, very violent, like tribes.
As violent as us?
Yeah?
As violent as us?
Yeah, I mean cutting head and then things like that.
Gruesome.
Gruesome, yes, very, very gruesome. And that was, I think, every nation has it in history, and that was the point or the time when you ask, where is rationality? Why is it not enough? Why cannot we answer? Why rationality is not enough? So you go to find something behind or beyond, other part of yourself, which is not rational. And I think literature serves this well.
Well, I remember, somewhere way back in 1928 or 1930, I believe, there's one Chinese writer, Li Zun, I believe. He had written something, a book titled as some diary, I believe. I'm forgetting the name. But your explanation, what you were saying, it reminded me of that book, where a lot of people said he also used a lot of very supernatural kind of elements in the book to describe, you can say, a kind of persecution complex or kind of a people devouring at each other and kind of that kind of a behavior, which was discussed, and it was found that some of the people dealing with the psychoanalysis, they call it a delusion formation. Now, I tried doing some discussion and asking some people, and they say that, you see, this delusion formation or a paranoia, maybe widely known as that, it comes out, it is a process of reconstruction. Now, yes, you have been, your country has been in a process of reconstruction, as we also have been. I mean, everybody evolving is a process of reconstruction from some kind of a suppression of behavior or something like that. But do you find that today, in countries like India, Indonesia, you have already a reformation, you also are a democracy now, aspiring for more and more? Don't you feel jittery at times, the democracy which, you keep on hearing about things in India, kind of a very chaotic thing happening. Somebody suggested you that Calcutta is not as safe as you were telling me something about it. I would love to share that with our audience. And that also, that something like delusion formation actually acts in the literature also?
Well, I like Freud, and as much as I hate him, I think I think the problem of psychoanalysis in the time of Freud is it is too much emphasizing on the abnormality. But later we understand that those mechanisms that Freud thinks as abnormal, it becomes more actually part of a positive way to understand ourselves. And I think literature is open to use any kind of way to help to make sense of what we don't understand, especially the dark side of human being. I think our dark side, and I don't know whether it is delusional or not. And maybe I prefer not to use the word delusion. Yeah. But I mean, Also, I think there is a danger for too much depend on rationality. I mean, rationality is a must, but if you think that it's enough, then it's danger. It's dangerous because there are other things that define human beings. That's what I like also about psychoanalysis, because it gives you an idea about the subconscious or the things that you don't
So you are
really
not
aware.
jittery about us, the Indian democracy?
By the way, when I was here, on my way here, I share an Indian American sit next to me, and
A couple, yeah.
a couple, and they already migrated to United States and adopt the United States citizenship. They were very concerned about me and saying, "Oh, be careful in Kolkata because it's not no longer it's not safe and as it used to be." So I got very grim.
You agree? Let's hear that. Okay. 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 Yeah.
So, but I think democracy is, I mean, once you have democracy, you cannot go back. People complain about what happened now, but still, Indonesia cannot go back to the military regime.
So that's great.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. And coming to the before I open to the our audience for some questions. I mean, we fortunately both of us belong to a non-English literature category. I belong to a even dangerous category, that is a poet. Nobody reads poems, very few. That's why you'll never hear poems being kind of bestseller or something like that. It happens only, no, it happens at times, but not in the lifetime of a poet for sure. At least that way, IU is safer, in the safer zone. But we both belong to the non-English literature, and let me admit and let me tell you, all of you, that there are, like Kalam, there are very few perhaps literary festivals right now, especially in India. Um, Indonesia, I know Ubud Readers and Writers Festivals do um, call some of these non-English literature people, mainly from Indonesia as well as from maybe Singapore or Malaysia and all. But then in India, non-English literature is not entertained or discussed in literary fests. Well, some of the non-English literature translated in English are still discussed, yes. No, but do you think it is because in India and Indonesia both, we have a lot of very strong influence and very strong tradition of regional languages, and a lot of literature, and very good literature is written in that. For example, Bengali itself, or Maharashtrian, Marathi, or Tamil, Telugu. I mean, everywhere, very strong literature. But they do not. Do you think like English actually is developing as a kind of a bridge language or something like that? And we try to, we should like to patronize, we should, patronize more. And is it not going to eat away or eat up on our kind of resources of regional and the strength of regional languages?
No, I think it won't eat up the regional languages. But again, yeah, I've been to several literary festivals, and I see the difference between festivals organized in English-speaking countries and non-English-speaking countries, like European countries. That is not English. Usually, the non-English-speaking country will give special attention to translation. Probably because they know that their language is not a majority, it's not a majority language in the world, so they have the sympathy or they understand being a small language, and they usually they make translation. With the festival in English-speaking countries, they don't care. Usually they think that everything will appear in English. But I think we can see this problem in several layers. The first layer is that, well, we have to accept that people need some practicality to be function to function. English language serve the function. it is become the most practical to communicate between communities. But so, but second layer, I mean, so it's for for practical reason. Yeah, English is the most um, practical way, bridge. Yeah. So like I can only read M.K. Singh's work when it is translated into English. I cannot read it in Hindi. So thanks to English, even though uh, some some part lost in translation, but still I can get some idea and some of the beauty of it. Keeping to myself that there are other beauty in the original version that I cannot reach, but it's okay. The second layer is that we have to see it in a different direction, from the readers to the writer's direction, the direction from the reader to the writer. Um, of course, again, it is easier to read other language, other literature from other countries in English because again practical. But are we going to stop in that? Are we satisfied only with the English literature? I think I also organize literary festival in Jakarta, and I always want to have a translation of the work. And the third layer is that from the writers to the audience. Who are your audience? I mean, when you decide your audience, it also will transform into your works. If somebody like me write in English, then I'm thinking of a global audience. I don't think of my special Indonesian audience. And that will change the whole writing. So I decided to keep with my Indonesian audience because I'm talking to them. It doesn't mean that I'm better than or I'm a patriot, yes. But once you decide your audience, then you take the form, the special form to communicate with them. And for me, I think, yeah, in this sense, I don't really care about the English speaking or English readership. I think if my book is published in English, but that is not my main.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great to know that
be independent and be
non-English
intimate with
literature can flourish still with its own kind of a readership. And while with this note, while I request our August gathering here, audience, to come up with some of the questions perhaps you may have for Utami. I just ask in between that why is some of your characters like Sita supposed to be so pretty, a woman, you make her like a midget and ugly and things like that, a recent book in Maya, I believe.
Yeah, again, it shows that the story of Ramayana, Rama and Sita, is absorbed in Indonesia as our own story. But actually, my latest book called Maya also means the same thing in
illusion, as yeah. Maya for us.
I dedicated to M.K. Singh.
So nice of you. Blessed. I feel blessed.
And it's actually a subtle story about. It has my book always has a political background, but my main thing actually is the human psyche. And I have this protagonist called Maya. She is not beautiful in a physical, but she is rather deformed. She is a midget. She is albino, okay, yeah. So she is very marginalized, and she didn't have education. So she is double, triple marginalized. But there was a certain spiritual teacher in Java, in my story, that want to create a new aesthetic by having a Ramayana dancer, Ramayana dance,
Yeah.
played by all these deformed
People.
people,
Yeah.
and using tradition of shadow puppet. So the audience won't see the deformed people directly, but they see the
Shadow of that
and
Mayan.
it creates the beauty, uh, the uh, the the different kind of beauty.
So
But
you heard
there is
that.
a problem in that.
So you
But
have
yeah,
you have a soft corner and you have a very kind heart for towards the especially challenged people also. That's great. I will take a question from gentleman there, our friend.
At the risk of, am I heard?
yeah.
At the risk of kind of stirring up a hornet's nest, that I'd like to ask you that despite the long association with India and with Hinduism and with the Ramayana and the Mahabharata on one side of the weighing scale, the fact is that Indonesia has the largest Muslim population. I would like to know how Islam, and especially its fundamentalist positions, affect Indonesian society, Indonesian literature, and Indonesian art forms in general, both traditional and contemporary.
You have something. No, your hands have some.
Maybe I press something. Yeah, Indonesia is the biggest Muslim population in the world.
Hello.
Yeah. I mean, if you say if you talk about the Muslim population, Indonesia is the biggest country. Though our constitution is rather secular, it is not an Islamic state, and a Muslim in Indonesia used to be tolerant, and Indonesia is not a society in which Puritanism is an obsession. Throughout our history, we always syncretize many things. So we are not a Puritan society. There is a good side and a bad side in this character. The good side is that we tend not to be fundamentalist. The bad side is we compromise and then we go to corruption because you're compromising everything, and you accept corruption too. So there is a bad and good side with this not being very Puritan. But yeah, with this recent development in the world, what I see is there is with globalization, you have two sides. One influence comes from the West, yeah, with capitalism, with technology and other things. But the reaction of the West is this Islam in the Wahhabist interpretation. Both come to Indonesia and get more strongly these days. So we are fighting against, and both sides of globalization is deteriorating our culture, our local culture. So we have to be very careful. I mean, Indonesian have to be very careful in dealing with these two forces.
Well, in democracy, I think we all have to be careful. Here also, we have similar issues in maybe different shape and forms. Can we have the other question, please? Yeah.
Hello, thank you for this excellent and very candid session that we had here. You just said that at one point, perhaps during that time when Indonesia was going through that violent phase of that liberation movement, you said you didn't have feminist theories as tools to help you, so you had to voice your own concern. Do you believe that, an increasing awareness of feminist politics and feminist theories, do that affect your understanding of yourself? I mean, does that compromise on the artist's spontaneity? Because if you're too aware of the politics of whatever is going on in the West, or for example, in this part of the world also, so is theoretical awareness somehow affects a writer's spontaneity? That is my question.
Oh, great, very
Good.
articulated.
Yeah, I mean, when I said there was no feminist theory, I refer to the 1970s when I was a kid. I mean, I was faced with this disturbing phenomena around me, and I don't know how to articulate it. So when I was a kid, I have to struggle by myself. But during the political change, it was already in 1990 something. The feminist theory were there already in Indonesia. It's translated. It has supporters. So it's there during the political reformation in 1990s. Now the question whether these feminist ideas and theory will interfere the artistic spontaneity. It can, but I know the risk. That's why I really make a distinction. For me, I was a journalist before, and now I am more a novelist. I don't say, for example,
She was a beauty patient as well. I'll tell you later.
I don't write about a very clear human rights abuse because I think it is the part of journalism with something very